It was 2 a.m. and I just remember crying in my room. It was dark. I was depressed. I felt like a loser and I had severe anxiety. Like each night when I used to go to sleep, I used to feel like there's a knife just sliding through my windpipe, and my heart used to beat faster just thinking about the future. My mental health was in absolutely horrible condition and I did not have an ounce of confidence in me. This day was around 4 years ago and I remember it like yesterday. It was on that day that I decided to flip my life around. Like I didn't want to be on my deathbed looking back at my life filled with regrets and just sulking about all the potential that I had just wasted. You see, the reason why my mental health was so bad and my self-image was so destroyed was because I was just seeking instant pleasure. I wanted as much pleasure as possible and as fast as possible. I was eating McDonald's 3 times a day. Like there was this particular day where I consumed 10,000 calories and it was just filled with garbage junk food, ice creams, burgers, chips, filled with seed oils, etc, etc. I was hooked to pornography, I was hooked to video games. Like there was this particular day where I played video games for 11 hours straight and then I went to sleep and I swear to you, in my dreams I was just seeing that gameplay. I was literally seeing myself playing that game again. It was that bad, my addiction to all these things. Every time I felt sad, every time I felt bored, every time I felt lonely, every time there was a stressor in my life, I used to use these coping mechanisms, video games, pornography, fast food, to feel better at that moment. But this then became a vicious cycle. The more I did these things, the more I craved these things, and the worse my mental health got. And the cycle just repeated itself. Like at this point, every one of us knows that these things are horrible. Like there's no debating it. If you're still contemplating whether pornography and all these things are good for you, then I don't know what to say. You came to the wrong channel, I suppose. But the real problem that I was facing was that I was just hooked to these things. I've been using these things for like 5-6 years at this point, and it was just hard to get rid of them. I was addicted to all of these things. Like I wanted to quit them, but I just couldn't. I'd broken my nofap streak like 1,000+ times. And I cheated on my diet like hundreds of times. There was no way that I could consistently avoid these things for long periods of time. Because I could go on for like a couple of days or weeks with raw motivation, but eventually the cravings would kick in and they would just chip away at my motivation and I would just succumb and relapse. That was the day I started fasting. I was just in so much pain. I was just so depressed. I was just so frustrated with life that I was willing to try anything, just anything to get rid of these addictions. So I literally decided that I'm not going to eat anything for the next 48 hours. I am going to go on like a 2-day fast. Honestly, I did not even prepare for it. I did not even do my research. I did not even know what ketosis was. I did not even know how to break the fast or what to eat before a fast. I just did it. I just went for it. Like my back was against the wall. I had no other option. I tried everything else. This was the last thing. Now the first day was tolerable. The first 24 hours I had my willpower with me. It was tolerable. It was bad, but not so bad. But the second day was absolutely brutal. I remember waking up in my sleep with hunger pangs and just my entire body feeling jittery and me feeling really, really cranky and me not able to concentrate on anything. And I had moments of weakness where I was tempted to break the fast, but I thought to myself that I would rather die than go back to the life that I was living. So I finally pulled through the fast, the 48-hour fast. And in hindsight, I do not advise this to anyone. My approach was wrong and it was filled with mistakes. But after that 48-hour fast, after not eating food for 2 days and finally breaking it and finally consuming some healthy food, I started to feel amazing. It was like all the damage that I'd done to myself with all these hedonistic habits, the way they had impacted my brain, it was all undone. Like my brain had rewired itself and become brand new. Like there was this factory reset button that I was just able to press due to this 248-hour fast, and I began to feel like a clean slate, a new man. I was a lot more motivated. I was a lot more happy. My anxiety was lower, and the best part was I had absolutely no cravings. I had no cravings of fast food. I had no cravings of pornography. I had no desire to play video games. I was just feeling good. This is when I started really delving deeper into fasting. I knew that I'd discovered something. I knew I'd discovered some sort of magic pill. Like this was my eureka moment. I started reading about what happens when you're fasting, the process of ketosis, the way the body starts to detoxify itself, consume all the decaying matter, the way your body starts using different sources of fuel, and your brain starts working on ketones rather than glucose, and these ketones are very healthy for your brain. They allow it to repair itself. I just studied fasting for the next couple of weeks, fasting was the only thing that I was interested in. After this 48-hour fast, since I felt so good, I decided to do a bunch of smaller, shorter fasts, like a bunch of 20-hour fasts. So I did these 20-hour fasts for 30 days in a row. And during this time, my mental health was superb. I was as happy as a kid. Like, have you seen these 7-year-old kids in the playgrounds? Like, they don't have any worries, no tension. They're just happy. And they're just filled with joy, energy, and passion. They have big dreams. They have a lot of motivation. They're always energetic. That was me during those 30 days. Fasting was the magic pill that allowed me to destroy my lizard brain. But the truth is that when I left these activities, like no more junk food, no more video games, no more pornography, I had a void in my life. Like, I had a bunch of free time. Like, literally, like, I had like 7-8 hours a day of just free time. You need to fill this void with activities that give you a healthy amount of dopamine. So I started working out, I started taking cold showers, started meditating, started reading books. So not only were these activities good for me, like I was progressing in multiple domains of life, but they also give you a healthy amount of delayed gratification. I actually started feeling really, really happy each time I used to tick something off my to-do list. Each time I performed a behavior that led to my personal development, I actually started feeling good. So I went from this person who used to just want to live in his comfort zone to someone who actually started seeking discomfort, voluntarily started seeking discomfort. So for example, I used to be a big introvert. I used to be really, really shy. I couldn't ask for like an extra packet of ketchup at McDonald's. I was just that shy that I was really insecure, feared that everyone was judging me and looking at me and judging each of my actions. I actually started walking up to strangers and I started initiating conversations. Now, these were not super lengthy or philosophical conversations. These were just very superficial, hello, hi type of conversations. But it actually made me feel good. It boosted my self-confidence. And this is one of the reasons why I love self-improvement so much. Because if you genuinely wake up each and every single day and decide to get just 1% better than what you were yesterday, you are going to have phenomenal mental health. You're going to quit all forms of instant gratification and have a substitute to it. That substitute being delayed gratification. And at this point, like, people started noticing change in my demeanor, my appearance, and the way I conducted myself. Like, seriously think about it. What percentage of people do you think are lifting in the gym? And what percentage of people do you think are reading books? What percentage of people do you think are working on their vocabulary? What percentage of people do you think are involved in martial arts? What percentage of people do you think are eating quality food that does not give them brain fog? And not to brag, but I was doing all these things and I started separating myself from the crowd. It wasn't because I was special or something. It was because I had a bunch of healthy habits in my life that I was consistently doing, and over a period of time, they accrued into something beautiful. The longer I did these behaviors, the easier they got. Like, I no longer had to push myself to go to the gym or push myself to talk to a stranger or force myself to pray. No, all these things became part of my identity. These were things that Jibreal Khan did. They were my default settings. I didn't have to think about them. It was automated behavior. Like, think about something that you do automatically without thinking about it or without putting too much energy. Just think about you brushing your teeth each morning. You don't have to push yourself, force yourself. At least I hope you do brush your teeth. That's because brushing your teeth is part of your identity. You've done it so many times. Your body just knows it has to get this shit done. Similarly, once you do all these other activities consistently for long periods of time, they become part of your image. They become part of your identity. And my self-image had completely transformed. I was no longer a loser. I was actually the kind of guy who did hard things, who went through discomfort, who was lifting weights, who was sparring people, who was reading books, who was meditating. I truly began to see myself as a different man. And once I had actually built this self-image, it was so easy to say no to instant gratification. Like, I held myself to this standard now, and I did not feel like watching pornography or browsing through TikTok and be involved in some cheap hedonistic activity that some peasant does. Like, even during my off days, if I would actually sit down and try to play video games, I just simply couldn't. Firstly, I did not find it as fun because my real life was so much more fun. And secondly, I felt guilty. I felt guilty doing these things, because they were no longer part of my identity. Once you actually develop a good self-image, everything that you had to push yourself towards now pulls you towards it. It's like you don't have to put that much effort into doing certain behaviors or avoiding certain behaviors. If you genuinely spend the next 30 days of your life fasting, removing all forms of instant gratification from your life, and pursuing hard, meaningful goals, I promise you, you'll transform yourself in just 30 days. If you want my personalized attention for these 30 days where I hold you accountable and I guide you, then click on the link in the description and we can set up a free call. In this call, we can diagnose what your goals are and where your constraints lie and what is the help that I can provide you to achieve these goals.